listening to Kate of Gaia on Critical Mass Radio. The game is up. Now, it's our turn.
And good evening, welcome to Outside the Box. Yours truly, Kate of Gaia, broadcasting live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the universe here on criticalmassradio.co.uk. Anyway, I was kind of wondering what I wanted to go over tonight. And lots of interesting information coming out, having a few different chats today. And the system is, they're getting the message to the point where they're even asking now. So the ones inside, you know, the ones that I've been talking about, we need to wake up and not beat up, those guys? Yeah, that's why I poke at them, you know, to try to jibe them into consciousness, if you will, you know. Well, it's like this, if you can mildly piss someone off, they might actually look at it. But I'll tell you, it's at least a kangaroo jumped around in their little jungle. But needless to say, lots of positive stuff coming out, and I think on that basis I'm going to revisit a couple of things to really bring the points home, because I've talked a bit about a few different essays and, you know, how critical things are. And I think it's time to revisit a couple of these things and really just go through them again and just drive this home. This hopefully helps to eliminate people needing, you know, quote, legal advice, unquote, because you don't. What you need to know is who you are. More importantly, you need to understand what the legal system is in terms of a spiritual contract, and that's it. It's a spiritually binding contract. This is the unseen that people cannot see. For some reason, I do, and whatever. It's like, it's just the way it is. So I want to share spiritual contracts tonight, and I think I might look at the Midas touch again. I'm just going with what is feeling right, because in as much as I want to keep moving forward, I also don't want to leave people behind as far as keeping everyone up to speed, because I know we get lots of new listeners all the time. And I want to really visit on the fundamentals so that these concepts are driven home. Because the more you can see beyond the veil of the physical, the more power you will actually possess, and you'll understand what's going on. And this system that wants to steal all your stuff won't be so scary. Okay? I know what that feels like. The system stole all of my stuff. More importantly, destroyed my family in that process. And that's always the game, right? Undermine. You know, and you see, the measure of attack is always directly in the mirror of the amount of threat one has to them. And that's the game, right? This is about how far out of balance you can throw things. To see how far you can tip their boat over, and quite frankly, their Poseidon is upside down, bass backwards. They're all walking towards the bow. Well, the ones that are just blind, they'll just keep going until they're underwater anyway. And at that point, well, if you're underwater, well, it's water truth. So let me see. Just went to my website. I just want to see where it is. Should be on here. I'm looking. And it would be really shitty if it's not here, because I have to pull out. No, I'm not seeing it. Let me just have a look. No, I'm not seeing it. I thought it was there. Isn't that interesting? Oh, well, I'll have to make sure I get that back over to Ninja. Interesting. Oh, it might be just contracts. Okay, it's probably just under contracts. So let me just check that out, because I knew it was there. Yeah, this should be the one. Okay, yeah, this is it. It's just titled contracts. I should get, I'll ask Ninja if she can just rename that spiritual contracts, because that's what I had it listed on my file here. So it's just titled contracts, but really the gist of it is spiritual contracts, to really drive that point home. Now, So it's on kateofgaia.wordpress.com. Just scroll down on the Kate's Writings page and click on Contracts, and there it is. So without further ado, I really want to drive this home to get people to understand it's not a physical signing, it's not a physical X, it's not a physical line, it's not a physical piece of paper, it's not the physical words, it's not the physical anything. It is the intent and the agreement that you place in that intent with what is being spelled at you and what you agree with. Because I'll tell you, what you agree with on a piece of paper when you put your DNA Midas touch on it, as soon as you touch it, it's sealed with your DNA. You won't see it on the paper, though, but it's there. That's why legal is all about forensics. That was a big clue for me a while back. So I started thinking about this even more forensically, right? It's funny how they have all these forensic shows on TV, right? Just a coincidence. Hint, hint, hint. Wake up, wake up. So here we go. Excuse me. Okay, so contracts, over spiritual contracts. In truth, here it is all about contracts. Unfortunately, most people stop at the physical aspect of what a contract is, thinking it is just a piece of paper or an agreement made in writing without ever considering the intent. Intent is what contract is all about, inasmuch as every thought is pure creation, unfettered, where we all make countless left-brain deals and contracts every instant of the day. This is why we need to gain control over our analytical minds, where the system has finally trained them to think in a certain way. If someone can channel your intent and absolute creation power by means of keeping you thinking in a certain way, how powerful could they be? This is the very nature of the register trap. When you enter an agreement to register anything, you are making a choice to let another rule your divine feminine creative ability at source. Anytime you intend to do anything, it is already a spiritual contract. The trick is to gain control over that intent, and the distractions of this world fit that bill nicely. Are you caught up in the emotional dramas of day-to-day life? And if so, then your mind is owned by the illusions. You cannot serve two masters, period. So who and what are the masters? This is pure black and white. There is no gray area on this one. No halfway in and remaining a virgin. No almost pregnant. No partial deals with the devil. In this game, you're either in or you're out. Either in bed with the whore of Babylon, or you kick her out of your bed with no going back. To illustrate this clearly, let me share it this way. If you carry any form of ID, or you're part of the whore system, or not, if you have a bank account, a passport, a library card, etc., with your, quote, name on it, are you playing with the whore or not? And I want to go back to the word name. There's that not applicable magnetic electric, right? N-A, not applicable, me, M-E, magnetic electric. More and more layers, just to show that the size of the cosmic joke and how blatant this is once you start breaking all the rules, using all the rules. So carrying on here. What most people miss out on is the fact that anything you agree with at all, you are in a spiritually binding contract. End of story. Let me say that again. If you are in agreement with anything or anyone, you are bound under universal, natural, spiritual laws, and are thus in contract with whatever your agreements may be, and bound to those you are agreeing with. Is that clear enough for you? I'll wait a second here and let that sink in fully, so that you can see the measure of your own involvement with a system you claim to loathe. If you vote for someone, you grant them your power, pure and simple. Fact, done deal. You're owned. A slave? Now, get over it. Perhaps you may not feel good about that, but then whose choice is it? We can bitch and complain about our situations here in the physical realms, but we must consider first and foremost what our intentions and agreements are and what they manifest. The physical realm is the effect, and the spiritual realm is the cause, where the vast majority of people only see things from a body-stuck physical viewpoint and are, as a result, doing it all backwards, to the glee of the ones that control the system's intent. Humanity is ultra-quick to blame outside of themselves based on the various scenarios one can find themselves in. For every cause, there is an effect, and for every effect, there was a cause. What people don't like to consider is the very fact that they were involved at all levels willfully, if only ignorant of these universal variables and laws. While we continue to agree with commerce, we will be at full effect to those that control the money. So please don't cry me a river about your situations, because I've cried enough about my own until I finally grew up, accepted the responsibility of my own contracts, and worked diligently to remove the ignorance which finds me where I am now. Another aspect that people don't get is the sheer polarity that they live in. When one considers something evil and only evil, they are polarized and off-center and will never see beyond the duality of being polarized. It is only when we can see both good and evil in everything, which is never really easy, that we begin to see things as they truly are at all. I have had my own encounters with extreme evil, yet from those experiences, I got the knowledge that I have and can share, which I can see as good. It is all solely dependent on one's perspective. If your perspective is polarized to one side or the other, the instant something comes into play that opposes your opinion, you get all emotional about it and end up in some left brain monkey chatter fest and fully distracted. Remember this, that which you agree with, you are in full contract with. I have mentioned many times the absolute lunacy of some freemen on the land or sovereign citizen telling a uniformed goon that they do not wish to contract with them, are already in contract with the original license and application to get one in the first place. This is the original contract that hasn't been nullified on the physical, and most assuredly hasn't been nullified in the spiritual realms either. Even considering that you need a license is agreement enough for this game. In order to begin to grasp this concept, just consider all the agreements you have ever went into throughout your life, and soon you'll see the garbage piling up. The school system is more about getting children to simply agree with what is being taught, more so than what is being taught. The curriculum is inferior to the intent of the programming. One need only look at the first test that we ever wrote to see this. When a question is asked and requires an answer based on the teachings, you must have to agree that there is a right and a wrong answer according to what someone else is telling you. The easy exposure of that is to ask yourself the simple question: did it really happen if I didn't witness it? Or is it someone else's idea of what happened that you were contracting with? Every single thing that you agreed with but didn't experience yourself is an external agreement with someone else's idea of reality. So how's that working out for you? Well, who created the schools, the governments, the constructs of society, and how are they maintained? The easy answer is that it wasn't you, but the truth is, you are in full agreement with all of these illusions simply by going along to get along. Talk about a perfect trap. This is the point that we all have to get to before we can begin freeing ourselves by freeing our minds of the programs so carefully embedded that are totally detrimental to our spiritual existence. Just ask yourself why you are who you are and why you do the things you do. The likely scenario is that you are one religion or another based on your family. Your political views are the result of seeds being planted by your society, and your belief systems are fully based on what those closest to you taught you to believe without question. At what point does one break free of this nonsense? Well, you break free once you begin to negate, question, and counter everything you ever thought to be true. If it wasn't your own idea, it wasn't your own idea, and you are in contract with something or other as a net result. I covered this somewhat in my essays Type Choices and Behold a White Canvas. It is impossible to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, so that you have a compass reference to steer yourself. Everything I've ever been taught was tossed in the garbage, and I did my own reboot. It was quoted once like this: "If thine eye offend thee, pluck it out." That is not a literal statement, but rather an allegorical one. Good thing, huh? What it's trying to tell you is this: if you are doing something that creates a problem, stop doing it. With that in mind, who's really creating life's problems for you? If the answer was anything but myself, you have a long way to go, and you are polarized with no hope of seeing what is really going on here. This is a game of principalities of light and dark, thought forms made manifest, and can only exist where our agreements are all it takes to keep them alive, quite literally. I have simply decided to not be party to these agreements any longer, where my reality involves only that which I willfully agree with in full responsibility of my own choices. It really is quite simple, but the ego doesn't do simple. It only does complicated because simple doesn't involve drama, distractions, emotions, etc. This is the fundamental concept of the devil in the deep blue sea of Scylla and Charybdis, where the details will get your mind picked off bit by bit, and the ignorance will sink your entire ship. Only in the middle will you see both sides of the coin, the head and the tail of the dragon that has owned your mind for so long. You now have the choice to agree or not to agree with this insanity, where I've said enough is enough. I can't tell you where your point of enough is. Only you can do that. What I will say about that is this. Whatever bed you decide to make is the one you'll be sleeping in, and will either have the whore of Babylon waiting after bedding everyone before you, or the sheets will be pure and white. I chose the latter. Make no mistake about this game. It is not for the faint or the weak of heart. It will test you to your limits, but never beyond that point. You will be tested to the degree that is required for you to get it, and it will be up to you as to how far that goes and to what it will take. So choose the being hit by a feather or having a mountain dropped on you. What makes it easiest for me is that I know that my choices will not involve party to a murdered child due to the system that breeds warfare and starvation, where I will not aid and abet it by being an energy source via my ignorant agreement. I am weary of hearing people claim to be spiritual healers or the like and are still in bed with the whore, the original contract that nullifies any and all current spiritual intent. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. This is the tough choice. But the truth is, I value my spiritual nature that is infinite over all the physical manifestations of a single lifetime. The choice is that extreme, and you'll either take these gifts and use them this lifetime, or get stuck with another round of the same bullshit from a fully sleepy beginning again, as in 0 Point. Just ask yourself if you'll be happy going through kindergarten again, or are you ready to step it up to make the grade this time around? No pressure, really. Just that all of the universe is in your hands, regardless of what choice you make. Beyond that, I know who and what I am now, so my choices are manifesting, and I get to see those results play out every single day. You can too, but then you have a choice to make now, don't you? The whore of Babylon or you? Choose. Much love. Yours truly. And it really is that simple. And quite honestly, I love going back and reading stuff that I wrote a while back, and I always get new perspectives from it. Yeah. I read it and I get new perspectives from it? Yes, that's because it's writing for all, right? It's not written from a singular perspective. It's written from a singularity perspective. Slight difference. But this is a fundamental that people need to understand, and the contract breaks in the mind first. Everyone likes to panic. I won't say everyone, but I've seen a lot of people panic. Well, Kate, what do I do about this? And what do I do about that? And what do I do about this and that? Oh my! And honestly, it's like, whoa, slow down, smoke a bowl, because the ego loves to create these super huge, all-at-once dramas to build this wall of shit that you think you have to pass through. When really, that mountain that the ego builds is just a molehill, and all you got to do is erase it with your foot. Because the ego loves to put all of it together, you know, because as soon as you say, lose the ID, people go automatically into, well, house, car, family, kids, everything, wow, job, blah, 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 you know, passports, you name it, goes on and on and on, and it's all at once. No, I'd say that. The ego assumes it, though. What I said was you need to get the concept first. And from that point, once you have the concept and you understand that everything you've gotten into was a spiritual contract, in ignorance, we were all in ignorance doing this, but we're a little smarter now. So if you were ignorant about getting into a contract and you were duped and there was fraud intent there, well, that's a universal game that gets nullified. That's why this system is coming down, there's no question. A fraud revealed is null and void, nunc pro tunc, now for then. I see the end episode, 100th episode of Fringe, where things happen like that as if it never was. Where you wake up from the dream. Just my intuitive on it. But really, you got to know who you are. You're not a meat stick. That's your game piece. And yes, they're fun to play with and all the rest of it. And, look around the planet and you'll see people that think that that's all there is. And everything they do involves taking care of that meat stick from the meat stick perspective. And then you'll see them pile into churches, mosques, and synagogues in the millions and billions. For what? Oh, that's right. They want the easy way out. Apparently all they have to do is, worship a God outside of themselves that's coming to save them. That's on Sunday morning. And then right back the next day, they're doing the same shit they were doing the week before that they were seeking forgiveness for. Sounds kind of circular to me. If something's going around in circles all the time, well, that's kind of dizzy, isn't it? That's kind of insane. And if you're running in circles, where are you really going? Are you moving ahead? Are you moving backwards? Well, if you're spinning fast enough, you're moving down on a spiritual level. And that's one of the joys of this table, because all the people I know are done with the spinning and have stopped that and are now creating the spiral out. Good job. I got to tell you, it's been, for me, it's been a long time coming, and that's the joy of this table as well, is we all got to do it together. We got to see our own evolutions, our own growth. And I think that's quite magical. It's quite the archive we have, personally. Thousands of hours of it, really. Never mind the countless documents that have went out. And the reason why I wanted to cover this tonight was to reinforce the idea that we still have work to do in terms of waking others up. Others on the inside. And it's not about going and being an annoying dick like a Jehovah's Witness coming to your door trying to shove some religion down your throat. It's as simple as sending out cocky little emails for fun. I'll tell you, if you can strike a nerve with a cop or a lawyer, they're going to read all of it. I know they do. I'm not about to piss people off, just to piss them off. What I am going to do is get under their skin a little bit, make it crawl. Just get a bit of that fire going, Because when that fire is going, there's a little boiling action going on. And they'll be reading through it looking for a loophole for vengeance. And that's the thing about the ego. The ego sees literal and the spirit knows what's going on. And if there is spirit there, don't worry, that character will jump around for a while. Eventually, if they do have a conscience, which means they have a soul, they will wake. And if they don't have a conscience, or means they don't have a soul, well, they get eradicated in the grand scheme. I mean, that's just... soulless just doesn't work for me. Especially for those that have been around for a while, if you know what I'm saying. Again, we go back to the responsibility thing. And it really is about getting the information out. And there's a lot of really neat information on the website that you can send to family and friends. Send it to local principals at schools. Teachers, doctors, anyone that's got doctors fired off to their office. Say, listen, I was just reading this or checking it out. And And you don't have to spend time, quote, defending it, because truth doesn't require that. And if it's mentioned, said, "Oh, it resonated with me. I thought it was rather interesting. I looked into it, and it's actually quite true. I figured, I loved you enough to share it with you. If you get it, great. If you, that's fine too. But I thought you were valuable enough to share this information with. Stroke the egos. The egos love getting stroked. Again, use the fire to fight fire. This has been what's been used to get us under control. So use the same control mechanisms back. Works a treat. Especially when you see the facial reactions of someone you may say, "Nah, thanks, I'm not in your jurisdiction." Yeah. You see, what happened a week ago was simply because I know who I am. And I don't give a royal rat's ass. I don't. That's the thing. I accept my game fully. I stay on the path. And I accept the fact that there are things that I need to do, things that I need to work through. And where there is discomfort and fear and all the rest of it, I've experienced much of that. It's an ongoing process to get rid of it. It is. I just learned how to step through it. Doesn't make it any less painful or any less fearful. But I'm certainly not going to get frozen by it. I'm not going to fight, and I'm not going to flee. That's your typical ego response. Freeze, flight, or fight. Me, I'll take the fourth option. Stand. And know that the truth will set you free. See, I don't think that. I don't believe it. I know it. I've experienced far too many things. And I've got two prime examples on the internet right now. A week ago Friday's show, and the judge bows to sovereign. And it's as simple as the Sesame Street song. One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. It takes to wake people up. Give them enough contrast, and they'll go, huh? Let me see that again. Let me listen to that again. Let me read that again. See, the ego also likes to assume people's personalities. Have you ever met someone that you didn't think would be interested in anything you have to say to find out that they're one of the most interested people you'll ever want to meet? See, the ego likes to assume things because the ego is always afraid. It doesn't want to offend, and it doesn't want to be offended. Fuck that. If thine eye offend thee, pluck it out. And everyone is another point of me as a point of you, another version of my I. If thine eye offend thee, pluck it out. So I do. Quite simple. And again, people have asked me, what paperwork can I use and whatever. I would say if you've got the paper and a printer, send the whole fucking heap. And if you have a case file, put a case file on it. Serve it. Throw it back. Just throw it in. But understand what's on it. Because as I said last night, this stuff is not a get out of being retarded free card. It's the choices that you make that create the scenario. Truth doesn't defend those that are the Sunday morning Sunday schoolers, okay? That just go back out and do the same shit. That's just a religion program. This stuff is not going to work for someone that decides, well, I'm untouchable and all the rest of it, to go out and drive along the highways at 200 plus kilometers an hour. That's just stupid. This is called taking responsibility as a grown-up. Do the things you need to do. That being said, if there is, quote, an emergency and you need to be doing that, then by all means. Just be very careful, knowing that you're fully responsible for all your actions and everything that you bring into your reality as per that agreement to do that. If you agree with something, you're in contract with it. quite frankly, I don't mind a lot of the speed limits. Yeah, they've lowered a lot of them. I'm never in a hurry anyway, because I'm going to get exactly where I'm going to get at the exact time I'm supposed to get there. I'm never early and I'm never late. I'm always right on time, because time doesn't exist for me. The sun will be in the point of the sky, or not, when I get where I'm going to be. I just set myself where I need to be, and I go there. There's no time placed on that. It's really simple. It's about accepting all things. Another one I wanted to cover that I think will be beneficial for people, that really adds on to the whole notion of what a spiritual contract is and how they're really sealed. You know, I've watched enough of the literal stuff, even over the last couple of days. People, and I'll look at everything, whatever pops up. Seeing like news things talking about gold and whatever. But I'm looking at it with allegorical eyes, so I see what's going on in the spiritual. But you can still see how deeply embedded this whole physical game is with people, placing value in something physical over their own spirituality, their own souls. But we're getting there. It is getting better. And I think it might come as a shock to most people. Maybe not this table, but to most people, that when they truly understand what's going on with a loan or a mortgage, who they're really lending the money to, who they're really creating the money for, might be a bit of a rude awakening. So I think the next one I'm going to have a look at is the loans and mortgages, who's who. But first, what I'm going to do is I'll open up, if anyone wants to jump in for a few minutes here and maybe discuss the spiritual contract thing, and then I'll get into the loans and mortgages, who's who, to really drive this point home. I'm not sure who's on this line. It's all ones, but let's see who it is. You there? Well, you can hear lots of backup noise. That just might be Barbara. Who knows? Well, it was the only one that had their hand up. If you want to jump in and make any quick comments before I go on to the next essay, there's Joe. Thank you, Joe. Jump in now. And let's get you in there. There you are, Joe. How are you doing, kiddo?
Excellent. Beautiful day here. Can you hear me well?
Yep, loud and clear.
Oh, good. Yeah, spiritual contracts. About 6 years ago, I went and sat a Vipassana 10-day meditation retreat. And in that process, I'll do a quick overview of the process. You literally sit down for the first 3 days in silence, meditating hour after hour. You have breaks, It's been designed, it's been running for 50 years or more. It's been designed to be a 10-day process because it takes that long to get through the egoic mind and get still, get quiet, get equanimous, get balanced in our mind, body and soul. And it also is run as a free process. Everybody there works as a volunteer. They're doing their metta. They're wanting to give back. The process at the end, you choose to donate or to give forward, pay forward. You never pay for yourself. The idea, if you want someone else to get the experience or get something from this that you may have, then it's your choice to whatever you choose to give, nothing or whatever. So it's pure. I love its intent, very pure. And after sitting for 3 days, just scanning the breath around your nose, you're pinning it right down because you're controlling the mind to focus it and to use it as a tool and not it use you. Once you've got that, then you scan your body from head to toe, experiencing the sensations, and the main thing is awareness and equanimity, meaning no craving, no aversion. There's no desire for feeling really high when you're feeling really good. You just observe it, be equanimous, and then there's a lot of pain and resistance in the body, which literally is linked to the mind. And it can be old pain. The more equanimous you get with it, the more you can just observe it. So from the beginning, from sitting there watching a pain in my leg that my mind would be telling me, quick, get up, you're going to lose your blood flow, you'll be causing problems or whatever, to equanimity to observe that. And then it just becomes an intense sensation, but it's just a sensation. It's not, you're not trying to move away or like, want more or less of it. And after 10 days of my first sit, I walked away from it going, oh my God, I've been on a merry-go-round. Everything I've been doing, everything New Age or running programs from personal development, spiritual development, up there doing talks and everything. I had to walk away from all that knowing, who am I to know anything other than this stillness? So I turned from everything and think, well, I'm just going to do what's put in front of me and accept the synchronized events that I'm being part of. And that journey to getting to this table here, as you say, it's not easy, but it's a simple process. And recognizing the craving and the aversion of the ego's need to play out some sort of, it really just comes down to wanting to feel good or wanting to, resist feeling bad. And the more equanimity or more equanimous I become, and I love the word, because it literally, after the experience, it's like trying to explain jumping out of a plane and the tandem skydrive. Unless you can get a feel for it, unless you've done it. There's so much to it, and you get to really observe your mind. Halfway through, I remember thinking, I'm going mad, the resistance in my mind. And then at some point I looked back and went, oh, I wasn't going mad, I was going sane. The ego's desperate to try and, do what it normally does. So for me, this Vipassana sit is something that I do once a year. I do a 10-day to just refresh it, and then I sit most mornings for an hour just doing the scan of my body. And that place there breaks all my egoic illusions, my physical experiences that I think are so real, and I become balanced. I become equanimous. I sit on the edge of the coin. And from there, I just look at the day. And what this table has done is helped me to not get distracted by the physical and recognize the creative intent behind my equanimous state.
You're making the choice, the clear, decisive choice in a clear mind versus reacting as an ego would. Again, it's the dreamers that built the airplanes, that built the cars, that that did all of the things that people that don't do that, what we would deal as mainstream, just go along to get along. It's the dreamers, it's the misfits, it's the crazies, that change the world because we're crazy enough to do it. And that's exactly what happens. And what you're talking about, from my perspective, is you had the opportunity to finally take the time to get a grip on, literally on the head and the tail of that dragon, where you were standing on the rim of the coin. And now you choose what you wish to experience, and then when you have any sort of an emotion with it, you're well aware of it, and then that's something very specific that you can work through. Literally what you're talking about is a very step-by-step walk through that resistance or the fear or whatever is attached to it, in order to get the job done. And you're right. That's one thing I want to do is jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Hopefully not one that I'm flying. But that being said, that until you do it, it's like those that have a few examples for me, but it's as simple as going over the side of a boat, knowing you're going to do a 200-foot bounce dive. Typical advanced diver is only 130 feet. Going beyond that is, it's quite insane. But anyway, it's the challenge of it. But when you go over the side of the boat and you've got a reef maybe 100 feet below you, and then it just disappears into the black abyss, and you're falling like a rock into that abyss, and you're just watching the reef go past you, like really quick, that's a rush. And until you actually experience that, I have no words. I've experienced it, and it's pretty cool. And you've done the skydive tandem, right? Joe?
Oh, yes, I have. Yes, I have.
So what a rush, right?
Totally.
See, now I could listen to you and you could explain it to me, and well, given the different exhilarations that I've experienced, I can equate some of that and empathize with that, and I'd say, yeah, that'd be one hell of a rush, to jump out of a perfectly good aircraft, and yeah, I can hear the ego screaming, we're gonna die, all the rest of it's going on there, and the spirit's going, yeah, baby, let's fly, So it's a beautiful dichotomy of the spiritual and the physical. I got to tell you, probably at that point of jumping out of the plane, it was just full on, like, what am I doing? I remember stepping out into the Caribbean at night, never having been in tropical water. Yeah, there's sharks, right? And all of these things go through your mind as you're stepping out into the blackness of the water, without knowing what's below you. But you do it, and then I got to tell you, my favorite time to dive is at night. It's the most miraculous, most spectacular, most focused, most alive time. That's when the reefs really come alive. So you get to see things. I mean, like crabs with 9-10 foot leg spans. They're monsters, and they're beautiful. And the morays, they're out, and it's just like wow. And so it is. It's that rush. But what we're doing here now is becoming fully aware of these choices. And I got to tell you, sending out an email to a local, city hall or something is not really that scary.
Nope.
It's not that scary. Hey, Mystified, how are you? I got a couple others to bring in here too, but go ahead.
I was just going to, it sounds exactly like what happened to me 2 or 3 days ago. Oh, God. I opened the door and there was 2 big burly policemen at my door.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, and the first thing that I said to them was, I just stood there and smiled and I went, "You may not be aware, but last year there was a thing released called the Apostolic Letter by the Pope, which removed all limited liability and immunity from prosecution for everybody. And so now everybody is operating in full and unlimited liability." And they looked at us and I went, "You may not be aware as well, but the Vatican was the first corporation, and so the Pope's been running it all behind the scenes, and the DWP and your police force are both corporations." And by the end of it, it went on for about 10 minutes. I was just interacting with them and seeing things, and you would believe it, Kate, by the end of it, this policeman, this giant, big, burly policeman stood there and he went, "I'm not here as a policeman, I'm not here as a public servant, I'm here as a human being." And it was unbelievable. All of that armor got stripped off, the whole lot, just from interacting with them.
Well, that's it. And it really is easy to strip them down. And it's about standing in your center. Or in my case last week, just sitting behind the wheel doing a show in my car.
Yep. It was incredible. It was.
Oh, you know these guys that partially roll their windows down to talk through? All the way down, baby. I'm right here. Let's play. Right? I've had them reach into the car, open the door, and try to yank me out and stuff. Oh yeah, I've been through some real fun times. That's why it's, to me, guys, just get the information out. You want to change the world. I mean, the stuff's there to do it. Read it, make it yours. All these writings are yours. The only reason I've got a tag on there, Kate of Gaia, is to let you know where the source was. I'm just another part of you, so these are yours. Remember, fiction's copyright. Spirit is all. There's no copyrights on any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You can play with it.
It was amazing. I'm still grinning now.
Well, you see what it feels like to stand in your power, and when you actually know, it's like in the Jack Reacher movie. She turns to Tom Cruise and says, "Well, I'm the one that found this information. Should I be scared?" And he just looked at her and said, "Well, are you smart?" She goes, "Yeah." Well, then there's nothing to be afraid of. And that's truth.
Yep. It was just to go from how it was in the very beginning to like me going through various things with them, like the apostolic letter and limited liability and all of this stuff, how the police were corporations, how they took an oath as a common law public servant, and how they should be upholding no fraud, harm, loss or breach of the peace, and how they're human beings, and how we're all human beings, and honestly, by the end of it, he said to us, I couldn't believe it, honestly, I'm not here as a public servant, I'm not here as a policeman, I'm here as a human being. Incredible it was.
Yeah, and that's part of what I want to do tonight as well, is I'm going to use tonight as a bit of a grounding for everybody, because we've been pretty deep and pretty out there with concepts, so what I want to do, one of the feelings I had today is let's ground this out a little bit, but not play in the literal. I still want to make sure that we stay in this knowing who we are perspective, so that these simple things that we can all relate to can reinforce and ground those things that we already know. And from time to time, I do like to do this for myself as well. This grounds me too, right? Because you got to remember, when the stuff that I'm constantly playing in, it's far from what would be deemed normal in day-to-day society life. So yeah, I need to ground out too. And based on one conversation in particular I had earlier today, this is the power of sending information into these people, and it gets people like the mayor sitting on a phone with you for a couple of hours. It gets sheriffs to back down. It gets entire courts to talk to you. It gets prosecuting lawyer from a bank calling you to end up losing the call and emailing you back to say, listen, I want to finish that conversation. And it was an individual that was spending the time educating them on what's really going on. It is sinking in, guys. It's really, really sinking in. And the more we do, the more it sinks in. And it's not about the paper. It's about the intent. Get the concepts. Send the intent in. That's all this is. If the concepts are working for you, if you can resonate with them, if you can see the ahas in them, not only are you adding to your DNA and your ability to see further and deeper because you're going further out on that limb, on the tree of life you're building, the more power that you are gaining and the more responsibility in that power. And again, with power comes great responsibility. And sorry, you can't have this and still do idiot moves. Sorry, you just can't. Because the universe is going to spank you harder because you know better. Right? Let's get this game finished and take it all down, and then we'll play the way we're supposed to. Right? We got some tidy up time here. You know the song? Tidy up time, toys away. That one? Yeah, toys away. So now I've got two lines here. They're all with the one, so I don't know who's on each. So I'll get the two that haven't said anything yet to say hi, so I know who it is.
Hi, this is
Hello.
Barbara. And I remember clean up, everybody clean up.
Hey, Barb, how are you? Okay, so we got
Very
Barb.
good.
Who's on the other line?
This is Manny, Sunny Sun.
Oh, Manny,
reporting
okay, yeah.
from an undisclosed area.
You're out there in the universe, too, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so tonight
we're
Go ahead.
switching. We're just really switching it up now. I feel the embrace of everyone's point of view. So I'm here. Hello, everyone. Barbara and Kate.
And Mystified and
Joe.
Joe. That's who's on the board right now.
Morning.
So I would like
Good morning.
I would like to share with you all another grounding essay, the Who's Who, Loans, Mortgages, Who's Who. And these are the kinds of things that you can send to your friends and family. You can print them out. They're only a few pages. And, take a walk down your neighborhood and just drop them in mailboxes. It's really that easy, guys. Leave them lying around in libraries. People like to read there, apparently. Leave them lying around at bus stops. Leave them on buses. Leave them in places, coffee shops where people sit and read. You know, how many times have you went into a coffee shop just by yourself and you sat down to have a coffee and you're looking around and says, oh, there's nothing to read, right? So leave things around for people to read. Give it to the staff. Put it on laundromat bulletin boards. There's a good one. Boy, there's lots to talk about at the laundromat, isn't there? You know, pick these high points of high traffic with people that are going to be sitting around doing nothing. You might as well give them a means to save their soul, yeah? I'd say there's good intent in that. I'd say there's really good, quote, karma, unquote, you know. And again, you're not trespassing on free will choice. If someone decides to pick it up and read it, well, darn. That's how it works. And the one that does pick it up and read it was meant to, because all things are perfect. I accept all things. So that being said, let me just get through this one, and we'll go from there. So the loans and mortgages, who's who, and it's again on the writings page, cateofgaia.wordpress.com. And how many pages is this? It is 6 pages. And you can crunch this. I write in 13. The size of the font is 13. If anyone's bothered to check, that's deliberate, of course, and you all know why. I'm writing from the Christ consciousness, so I decide to set it up as such, and all these intents go into everything I do. That being said, the loans and mortgages, who's who. So here's what's really going on, right? And this really dispels all of the money guru types and talking about systems and banks and all the rest of it when they talk about fractal reserve banking and money being backed by gold and all the rest of the shite nonsense that I once thought was true. And, well, we know a little differently now. So here we go. In order for any crime to exist, there must be proof of intent, where ignorance of the law is never an excuse, either physically and or spiritually. Got lots of noise in the background, guys, so let me just... It's actually more of a hiss on mute out some lines here. There we go. Yeah. It's on both of the 111s. Barb and Manny, both your lines are really noisy. It's okay. I'll unmute you as soon as I'm done here. Okay. We have long ago proven that any and all use of a Crown copyright legal name is in fact fraud, regardless of whether or not we were aware of it. Inasmuch as ignorance of this truth was never one's intent, it is equally not a defense either. Those that make the laws must obey the laws. That which we agree to, we are in contract to by willful consent. This is about regaining our full responsibility, nothing more, and certainly nothing less. So what is really happening when someone goes into a bank for a loan or mortgage account, etc.? As a result of our willful acceptance of all things system, there was much hidden from view because our ignorance had kept us blind. That is the case no longer. A living being cannot enter into a contract with a dead corporate entity, but one who is acting as a dead legal fiction can. This applies to both sides of the equation with every contract or deal ever agreed to. I didn't say signed, I said agreed to. If one has agreed to something, they are already in a spiritual intent-filled contract and bound to it accordingly. The instant you even thought about getting a loan, you were already in contract via that self-same intent. In my own efforts to uncover what was really going on, I followed countless trails of the vulgarity called legal, and the one thing that always came to the surface was that every bit of the legal system is pure distraction in the physical, keeping us never looking as to the spiritual nature of these things. Signing on a line made you the underwriter. An X on the line meant no consideration, accommodating party, UCC this, and legal bullshit that, because I wasn't getting deep enough into the true spiritual aspects, being mainly distracted to the as below and not really seeing the as above. Given the myriads of twists and turns with all things legal, it became abundantly clear that the entire legal system and its machinations was nothing more than distraction designed to keep an egocentric left mind content to play with the details with the devils. The truth is, every contract you ever went into with the legal name was, is, and will always be pure fraud until you uncover the original intent of the creators of the legal name system. The birth certificate is all the prima facie evidence one requires to prosecute everyone and anyone who attempts to create a legal joinder, assumption, presumption, by using that name at all. Now, with that being said, the original sin is in plain sight now. Was it mine or yours intent to commit fraud knowingly? Well, of course it wasn't, but that can't be said about those that created the name fraud to begin with. The mere fact that a cop puts on a uniform is proof of intent via the execution of their duties to aid and abet a living being into committing fraud unknowingly, because without a name joinder, the cop has no jurisdiction, being as they are themselves dead by consent, as proven a week ago. It is not a fluke that cops are now having not for identification on their business cards, well, if you can get one. I did recently through a friend, and this is proof positive that they are now having to yield under the pressure of us restoring our own honor and, by default, forcing their hand as well. For everyone that has ever got a loan from the bank, or those stupidly considering this, here's something to think about. The account you think is yours isn't. The name is owned by the Crown, the legal one, not the lawful one. Unfortunately, if someone even utters their name, it can be assumed and presumed immediately to be the legal one. The bank is a registered corporation, just like your name, so it too is owned by the Crown as a result. As a point in case, so is the United Nations, and all countries registered. There has been a lot of talk about some New World Order coming when the truth is, the New World Order has been in full force and effect for thousands of years. The easiest way to keep people from seeing this is to keep telling them that it isn't there yet. You can't find something if you think it isn't there yet. The New World Order has been around for millennia, as long as any exchange, barter, or money system has been in place. Today's version is the same as the old, where the mark of the beast is the legal name, and the whore of Babylon is commerce. If you don't believe me, see how far you get in this world without their legal identification to conduct day-to-day commerce, travel, survival. With the backdrop nicely set, let's see what is really happening when we go when we go into a bank to get a loan or a mortgage then. On the surface, it looks like one goes into a bank, meets with a bank official to ask for and set the terms of the loan, mortgage, stated as contract hereafter, goes through the illusional hoops of, do you qualify? The paperwork gets drawn up, you sign it, and voila, the bank seemingly gives you the needed funds. In the world once deemed as normal, this explanation would suffice. Let's use a mortgage as the example here. Always keep in mind that only the living can contract with the living, never with a corporation or dead thing. So let's look only at the living people involved, because a bank by any name is still just a dead corporation. So we have to trail and track the living beings involved. For sake of simplicity, I'm going to use the original bank as the dead entity, namely the Bank of England, since it was the first bank and the one that usurped the living crown in the form of William III, with the dead crown replacement hereafter referred to simply as the Crown Corporation. Since it is only you and the loans officer or bank manager, the living involved, well, so who then is really borrowing the money? Remember, only living parties can contract, never the dead. This is where the consent of all living parties involved comes into play, and the various contracts they are intimately, by consent, are bound to spiritually, by intent. The bank manager had to willfully consent to fill out an application form to work for the bank, and is thus in contract to and with the bank, or more accurately, its owners, who establish all the bylaws for that corporation. Behind every dead corporation, a living being is involved. A corporation only exists because of the intent someone had to create it. Fact. We now know who the parties are, and it is just you and the living being acting in the role of bank manager, bound to all the obligations they consent to by being an employee of a bank that someone ultimately owns. In the case of the Bank of England, it is deemed the being who holds the office of corporation sole. What is really happening is that you are creating a loan for the bank manager, not yourself. It is the bank manager that is getting the money to buy your house that you think is yours. But then you'll look at the agreement and see that you are only deemed tenant. It is the bank manager that is the land or property homeowner, not you or the bank itself. You are presented with the documents prepared by the bank manager for you to sign. What you don't realize is that the contract is completed not when you sign it, but when you agreed to get one in the first place, and then it was sealed when you touched it. Did you use gloves to sign it? Not likely, and it was your DNA and the DNA of the bank manager that sealed the contract, not the ink. When you begin to realize the DNA connection, you begin to see why your DNA was grabbed as a baby with both footprints and blood taken. This was done to create lawful joinder with your DNA and the name, with the consent given under seal when your parents registered your name and is evidenced with only a copy of the original sealed deal in the registry book. Yes, your DNA can be connected easily to Mum and Dad, where the mitochondrial DNA from Mum is the permanent record of all lineages back. What has happened when you seal the deal with your new debtor, called the bank manager, is that you are merely the guarantor of their loan and are secondary status in this arrangement, because the real holder in due course is the bank representative, and why you will never see the original again, because it is not yours to ask for. All the liability of the loans, every one of them, is on the shoulders of each and every living being that works for and in any all financial institutions, and is party to any and all loans, etc. Since all things Crown are all things Bank of England, and all things registered are all things Crown owned, who now owns everything? It is not a pretty picture, but a vastly clever ruse that is finally in the light of day. In a nutshell, you lend the bank manager money so they can buy your house for you to be a tenant in, and then, if the mortgage doesn't get paid, who does the bank come after? It was the bank manager's loan, and they skipped out on day one, leaving you to pay their debt as the guarantor for them. You can't even deal this legally because you're a third-party interloper in the whole charade of three-card Monty by the bank. You haven't got a legal leg to stand on, but you do have a lawful one. Well, privately prosecute the deadbeat borrower known as the bank manager. And again, this is for earlier concept people that don't quite get what we're talking about in terms of prosecution, etc. It's a universal spiritual game, but this is entry-level stuff, okay? Back to the essay. The fundamental flaw of this scam is that once a fraud is revealed where it was intended by design, the fraud in all contracts are rendered null and void, nunc-pro-tunc. The legal name was a fraud with intent, as were the loans and mortgages of all kinds. The contract is between you and the other living party always. What happens next is that the bank forecloses on the property that their employee skipped out on paying for. Remember, the employee, also known as bank manager, has a living contract with their employer that hired them, and so it goes all the way up the line to the board of directors, to the most responsible of all, the chief executive officer on that board. Needless to say, the bank grabs legally the property that their employee owns, and they kick you, the tenant, out, and then proceed to dupe another victim into the same scam. It does not end there. This is the new beginning of taking down this whore of Babylon, the dead crone mother, the Kronos who eats their own children so never to be overthrown. Well, the whore missed eating me, but it was a very narrow escape. Feel free to take the time to absorb this, because it takes time to see behind this veil. The only use the left mind has for me is codifying the creative etheric thoughts of my right brain, the one I live in. You're out in left field if you're not in your right mind, and it will forever be at effect to it until you break free of normal thinking that is based solely in programming. All levels of trickery in the legal world have been utilized to keep us off the true trail of living versus impossibly dead contracts. We first had to expose the name fraud and how our complacency and acceptance was used against us, and we revealed the source fraud. By doing this, we can separate the dead from the living in this world. Those using legal names and identification are deemed dead by their own consent, and we, the living, who have been born again, in quotes, and wield the real power now. Inasmuch as the bank manager or whoever contracted with you is the accused, they are automatically deemed dead fictions by consent, where we, the living, are witnesses to these crimes, including, and foremost, the name fraud. It's time we made these deadbeats and their masters accountable, where ignorance of these facts is not an excuse in the same way neither was our own ignorance. Once again, the real guilty parties want us to keep fighting amongst ourselves, where the true criminals are the ones that own these corporations. Still, we're going to have to prosecute a few of these people and get it on the record. The joy of one single victory on the record is that it changes the whole panorama of the system completely. This is the power of one, literally. If but one shall awaken, Yes, it's a little late for them now, where it is my wish to simply end this nonsense and just get back to the living. The best part about the golden rule is that for every harm done in action is one that must be experienced in the mirror. So be careful what you wish for, especially against others. What ye sow, so shall ye reap, is pure truth and fact. For those seeing this and wishing to privately prosecute, as I will, just check for a justice of the peace or similar type in your area for starting that process. And again, all you got to do is put the intent in there and watch them squirm. Right? Hey, they bluff. Well, we're not bluffing. We have the rough flesh here, but it's still just put your cards up. Let's see what you got. Yeah, they're going to see a lot of people folding on this. Remember, once these goons catch on, they will try and make it difficult for you where no help will be given. This one is on your shoulders as it is on mine, but I never take no for an answer, and any and all things plopped into any all courts belongs to them. Once a clerk touches your paperwork, they have contracted the courts, their employers, on their behalf. In the world of phonics, the one who touches, touches. More to follow. Much love. And again, this is about placing that intent forward. It's about getting the concepts. You understand the concepts in this, then it's just a matter of sending things out. And have fun doing it, you know. It's time to play. No more fear. No more fear. So I'll get these mics opened up again and get all you guys in here.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Pretty clear?
Pretty clear.
Very clear.
Crystallized.
I mean,
And
I don't.
harmony.
I don't think it would take a rocket scientist to read that, would it?
No.
I mean, I think pretty much anybody sitting down at a coffee shop that was bored out of their mind read that. That would certainly give them something to think about, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Not all at once.
that's what they're in.
Yeah, I was going to say, not all at once, guys, but come on, jump in here.
Yes, if that's what their interests are, because you're giving everybody an opportunity to be the God that we have learned that we are. We're at the emerald table, and so now that we are the family, I would like to put a new handle on my name. I would like to be Mother Goof, so I can open up my arms and bring in under my wings all those that want to have the truth and the love that we're learning right here at the emerald table. We have so many exciting people. I listened to Colleen the other day, and she's sweet as she could be. She's so gentle, but she's a turtle talker. I mean, you have to just sit and wait for Colleen to finish, because you want to hear everything. She has so many details, and it's so thorough. But I'm used to that because I have a Leo brother who is also a turtle talker, and so you just have to have that patience. Me being Taurus the Bull, we have a tendency to want to run through the China store. But now it's people like Colleen who grounds us and make us like grab us by the collar and say like, hey, sit down and listen to this. And I do. And it's so charming, especially her elephant story that she had that told us a few days ago. So I'll be with the children all the time, that I don't be in a place where I can open up my mic without disturbing everybody, but I keep my ear to your ear all the time.
I do know that, Barbara. I do know that, and thank you. It's like I will open your mic. If it's too noisy, I'll just mute it again, and I'll keep trying until it's quiet. So don't ever worry about it, hon, okay?
All right, then. I'm so glad to hear that. And little Richie, I know Richie walk around with a mirror in his pocket. He loves himself so much. And that's after. Oh, my goodness. He is always smack, smack, kiss, kiss, about to break his wrist, pat himself on the back. He is a charming young man. He has no hang-up in caring for himself because he tells of his enlightenment.
Absolutely, and Richie's in the call now as well. Just Joe, you dropped out, and you're back in too. So there we go. Everybody's rolling.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, that was all. I liked it. I didn't know you were talking about me. Is that me you're talking about? All right.
Exactly, you. Yeah, dial, baby. You right? Always let us know what's on your mind, and we'll seek and search for answers to questions that you have. That is so wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. You put that so beautifully. Yeah, that was really good. And hey, I got a story too today. This is I wasn't going to get on the phone. My nephew came up. I went to go visit my grandmother. It's a long story, but we went to go see her. But anyways, I had an opportunity here. I'm driving with him, and he didn't have a front license plate, and we passed a cop, and I'm like, I got this feeling. And, we took the turn, no cop. I'm like, oh, I had this feeling, and all of a sudden, the blues went on. We got pulled over, and I can't smoke. I smoke, and my nephew, he smokes too, but he doesn't want anybody smoking in his car. So when we got pulled over, I got out of the car to have a cigarette. And the cop got out of the car, and so what are you doing? I said, I'm having a cigarette, and I knew this was meant to happen, and I wished he would have recorded this so I could have threw it on YouTube for people to see. But he came up and he said, what's your name? And I said, me. I said, I'm who I am. And he said, you got an ID? I said, nope. And I said, and I was always respectful. And he said, well, get back in the car. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I'm going to stand here and smoke my cigarette. I said, and I just stood up. I wasn't wise to him at all, but you could see the energy going on. And he said, well, I'm going to search you. And I said, no, you're not. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're not going to search me. I says, did I break any laws? No. But anyways, what had happened, and my nephew was like, get in the car, Richie, get in the car. And I'm like, and I said, no. And I said, and he said, well, I can search you if I want to. I said, no, you can't. And he was confused, he was baffled and confused, and I could see what was going on. And so I finished my cigarette and got back in the car, and he was nervous. Now, he's a cop. He was shaking. He was a young guy. He was shaking. So I got talking with him, and, I said to him, I says, I know I'm not going to get into it all, get into this whole debate. I says, but what's going on here is, as far as I know, I'm free to do anything that I choose to do, so long as I'm not injuring hurting anybody. I'm not breaking any laws. So when you're telling me to get back into the car, that's my free will choice to do as I choose to do. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not stealing from anybody. I says, I know you're just following your protocols. That's great, but I don't follow those protocols. See, I'm not part of your system, Yeah. And he agreed, and I told him also too. I said, if this was me driving, I wouldn't be having a license. I wouldn't be having a license plate, and I certainly wouldn't be registering my car. And he says, oh, are you one of those sovereign guys? And I said, no. I says, but what I do know is that my ability to travel anywhere on this planet is my freedom. It's what I am, and it's who I am. You don't need my name. I don't need to give somebody permission for me to travel, on this planet. I said, you do know that. And he said, yeah. He agreed to me. I wish I would have tape recorded it for people to see, And he agreed to it. I said, so if you pulled me over, I wouldn't have a license plate or anything like that, and you would have to let me go. And he completely agreed to it. It blew my nephew's mind. He didn't know what was going on because he's so caught up into the system, not understanding that, And there were a few other things that was said that I'm trying to recall, but that's pretty much the power that we wield.
Well, yeah. Again, what you asserted to him, and the fact that you didn't get back in the car, is exactly the same thing that I said when Buddy was saying, "Your gas tank's leaking. You should get out and have a look." He says, "No, I don't follow anyone's orders but my own. Thank you." And that's all. You were not granting a jurisdictional permission, because when you take an order from any of these people, you've stepped into the jurisdiction, and that you've granted them the authority to say that you must do this and must do that. No, you don't. No, it's just, sorry, can't do that.
It's simple.
It goes right back to the what do you call it? Judge Bowes. when the judge said, get out of the courtroom, and says, no, sorry, I can't do that. I don't take orders.
Yeah.
Right?
I couldn't believe that, Kate. Yeah, because when they said that and the bailiffs came towards you, you put your arms up and said no.
Oh, back off. And they did.
Yeah, back off. Right. That reminded me of Neo. It just came to my mind in Matrix when the bullets were flying at him. He put his hand up and said no.
Yeah, I'll tell you something else that I said to the cops that help other people as well.
And they backed off.
Richie, hang on. Mystified was talking there. You're talking over him.
Okay.
There's time lags. So just be mindful of that. Yeah. Go ahead there.
Okay. Anyway, when I was in the middle of the halfway through the conversation with the two cops, one of the things that I said to him was, I'm sure that when you joined the police force, you joined to help people and to make a difference, which is why you took the common law oath to make sure there was no fraud, harm, loss, or breach of the peace going on. But what I see from you police now is all of you going round enforcing policies and statutes and acts, and you're just revenue generating. And he agreed with us, and he was like, you must have done a lot of research on how the system works and one thing and another, have you? And I was like, yeah, I have. And it was just another one of the things that removed another chunk of the armor, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're killing the illusions, that's what you're doing. And as soon as you assert that knowing, and it's not I think this, this. As soon as you start asserting that knowingness, that's what disarms them. That's the Neo effect. That's what happened on Friday. Disarmed.
Exactly.
Tow truck and all. See you later, boys and girls. Have a nice night.
Yeah. You literally become bulletproof to the whole...
Well, you're not part of the game anymore.
Right.
Yeah. You can't be pushed around, and the joy of this is the spiritual level of the game. That's what's holding everything back. Because I don't know about you, did you guys hear me serving a whole shit pile of paper to these guys on Friday night, or was I just sitting there on a show and telling them what I thought and kept going?
Yeah,
that's all I did.
You didn't miss. Yeah, you didn't miss a beat, Kate. It was
fun.
Perfect. And you're like me, right? You're not going to get into the whole.
I don't need to.
We're just we're going to be respectful. Of course, we're not going to disrespect anyone in the sense where, because that's just ego,
Well, I mirror the energy, So if someone's going to come at me with a slightly holier than thou attitude, I will mirror that right back, and at the same frequency. So I'm not looking to trump anything because I don't have to. The truth's already on my side. I already know I've won. So why would I need to get into any drama fits at that point?
Right.
That's just dumb, So again, it's about staying centered, staying in your zone, and knowing, like Jack Reacher again. Are you smart? Yep. Well, what do you got to be afraid of? Yeah. No need to be scared, So, and it really that's all it boils down to. And this is the truth about knowing who and what you are, and. When you get this, guys, and you start seeing the power you wield, you're going to be a little jaw dropped. Honestly, it's going to blow your mind. The amount of energy that gets shifted and how quickly it gets shifted. Because the truth is, and I said it in that one essay. Let me just go back to the line.
I just heard a little bit of that essay, Kate, and that was beautiful. The last 10 minutes of it, I just got on. I just called in, and I wish I would have heard the whole thing, but.
Well, it's all on the website. I've read this on the air before, I think a couple of times. But I do like to bring these back to ground not only myself but others where, we can still keep the effects rolling. I mean, there are people at this level. I mean, there's no need to private prosecute. That's just playing back into the same game. I don't play that because I don't have to. The universe takes care of that for me. What has to happen is I have to make the aware choices of the intent to put that energy in place to let the universe do that. And if I'm holding on to any of it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Right.
So I let it go.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the universe wants to play with your teddy bear. And if you're not willing to let go of your teddy bear, it's not going to be able to play with it. So here's the teddy bear. Go ahead, play with it. And then it goes and beats the shit out of it. So it's all good to me. But the bottom line, it's all about jurisdiction. Here it is. The mere fact that a cop puts on a uniform is proof of intent via the execution of their duties to aid and abet a living being into committing fraud unknowingly. Because without a name joinder, the cop has no jurisdiction, being as they are themselves dead by consent. It is actually intent of premeditated murder to legally kill someone by drawing them into the dead horror fiction realm. It's spiritual murder. Every time they ask for ID, they are committing spiritual murder.
Yeah. They're trying to get rid of your magnetic electric, me, absolutely.
Well, but they don't even know that. Most of these, this is the scariest part about it is most of these people do not know this. They not know the crimes they are committing against themselves by just the mere, execution of their regular day-to-day job. Every ticket that a cop writes is a premeditated murder of a soul on their contract that they have to nullify.
Every time they pull their NAMA pallet out.
Every single time they write a name down, they have willfully, of their own volition and choice, and are mercenaries. They got paid to do it. Yeah. They are killing someone spiritually. That doesn't bode well in the universal law of things. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Mm-hmm. The letter kills.
And that's what I told the cop too. I says, look up legal personality, look up civil law, and you'll see that was dragged in through Roman canon, Phoenician law. That's as far as I go. I don't get any deeper into it. I mean, I've studied a lot, but that's just where it's. That's the core essence of where it's at. Like you're
hey, Richie,
on the head there.
Let me make it even simpler for people, and I'm gonna say it in the most humble way I can. You have nothing more to say than listen. Just Google Kate of Gaia. Go to her website and read the writings, and that's all you need. And then I was hoping you were going to say you're one of those freeman or sovereign types. I was hoping you were going to say no, I'm Phoenician.
Can we
play a game now,
and
guys?
I did mention your name to him, I did say there's look up Gaia Gaia.
Can we play a game here? Let's see how long it takes for the I am a Phoenician to work its way into the system. Okay? The seed was planted a week ago. So plant a few more seeds. Just to see how long it takes for this to go worldwide. Fear porn's already done it. I'm seeing it coming up in all sorts of mainstream stuff.
Really? Yeah.
I remember the first time I said that was at my sister's place at her table at the back of the house. I couldn't think of something to say, and I said, it's because I've been talking about truth porn, right? I'm a truth porner, right? Just a slut for the truth. And I thought, and then it hit me about fear. I thought, well, all the media sells is fear porn, right? Everyone wants lots of fear porn, right? And lo and behold, you'll see it pop up. Keep your eyes open for it. Again, this is a test of the emergency broadcast spirit system that we all have. So start telling people you're Phoenician. Get that energy out there and wait to see how fast it goes.
Got a word for you to break down. Compassion.
Oh, compassion. Well, with pass ion, right? So it's moving past all of the bullshit. You also have the let's go letter by letter. Unconditional love into creation of the magnetic spirit breath. Flip the P, right? From the below to the as above. A in the divine feminine is Io goddess mine. It's pure unconditional.
I love that word.
It's a beautiful word. Well, what was the one comparison. I think I was talking about that last night. Calm, pair, eyes on. Yeah, with two pairs of eyes on. Yeah, that covers the meaning of the word. Don't you think?
Oh, there was one more from, I think it was last week. Penetration. You were going to break that down?
Yeah. Did I? Let me check my book. Pen. Well, pen is mind. Another word for head or mind. The mind of consciousness. Now, well, you got the Trinity. lots of layers in that one. Well, it's a trinity of spirit, breath, or Ra, the light from within. The law of truth of Ra within, Shun, or the note of love, the law of truth, Ion. So it's equal and opposite. I love doing the small words because there's, it's like the words, I think I did it last night, subtle. It was one clever bastard to put B in subtle. Well, yeah, because, what is subtel? It's a carrying frequency. You're trying to get, a point across without being blunt. So you're kind of undertelling it. You're quietly saying it. You're subtelling it. So that's why it's subtle. Works perfect.
It does. Yeah.
Unreal. So again, let's keep things real on the spiritual side of things. And again, I didn't want to really get back to this until I was confident enough knowing that it's not going to end up in some literal legal fest again. Really what this is about doing is understanding what these writings are, understanding what the concepts of the spiritual side of it are, and then just putting that, now it's a fully filled grenade with spiritual gunpowder. So wherever you leave it, anyone that picks it up, it's going to go off because you've put your energy into it. That's what carries. It's not the words. These are basically empty grenade templates that once you get the ideas contained in them, that's the force that's being carried every time you leave one somewhere. You're leaving you there, not the piece of paper. You're leaving that pure intent that you have garnered from it there. That's what's going to be radiating from those words, not the words. That's how important you are. I keep telling people this. You are all of the universe. You are all of creation. Start putting that energy into it, that understanding. And it's not just a piece of paper anymore. It is pure, unadulterated, get the job done truth.
Right.
Yeah, it's like if you look at a dictionary, right, and you open it and you're looking up a word, any word, right, just any word you can think of, okay, what's it got underneath it? That word is somebody's definition of something, right? And underneath it, it's then got 4 or 5 different other words, which is somebody else's definition of something else, trying to describe the thing that they're describing in the first place.
Yeah, it's mental hula hoops.
Yeah, it's just definition. Well, this is what I think this means, and this is what I think this means.
See,
who decides that's what it is?
Well, that's the difference, because we understand how the words are sound, and it's the intent that carries. So if there's a hidden intent in it, well, rip the word apart enough till you get the intent that's going to come pure out of you that you're happy with. And like I do it, just breaking stuff down phonetically. And once the word is neutralized, it's neutralized. It's now a pure word again, a pure sound. It's not a word anymore, it's sound. Pure sound intent with that magnetic carrier, this subtle wave underneath it that's doing all the creating. That's where you're really jumping up and down on your thread on the cobweb. You all have your own threads on this intricate web. And look at how many of us are tying them all together, and we're all jumping up and down on them. That's shaking the whole web, boys and girls. And that's how powerful you are. Your thread, you jump up and down on it, sends ripples throughout the universe. Fact. This is not conjecture. This is not I think. This is fact.
Yeah.
That's why I love the essay that you did.
Oh.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, the essay there, like you say, grounding that information that's in the physical with the intention of recognising our own fraud through ignorance, and then how that banking system really is in its effect. I spent years in that private sovereign movement, clearing credit card debt and looking at the system and following who's the fiduciary and the trust and you name it, and applying that information out there into the world, scared shitless at times of what I was doing, but at the same time knowing it was intent behind the action, because I could see where it would work for some and not for others, and then recognising the pure fraud in the system itself, exactly like Pompeii,
Yep.
I trust the law. No, the law is written for us to get caught up in the game. So to come back to that basic information, so people can get their head, who are not, as aware of the pure creation that they're having. Oh, is that how it really works? Right? Yeah, it's really how it works. Even just look at your mortgage contract. It says tenant in common or joint tenant. You know, it's spelled out. They've spelled it out for us all the way along, because that's why they're clearing their intent. Our free will choice was allowing and enjoining into that system at all times in ignorance. Now that it's not, now that the fraud's revealed, nunc pro tunc, you know, now what are we creating? What's my next step? My next step is whatever my essence, my being is going to show me. And trusting in that, knowing the truth of that, is where everybody, I think, who are in that sovereign movement, that's what they know is true, that they just get caught up in the paperwork, caught up in thinking there has to be, because we're somewhere in us, we deeply want to believe that the system wouldn't hurt us. Like, you know, our intentions not to. Could they?
It's a pure innocence that we have. That's exactly what gets played against us. So that's why, for me, it's not about vengeance, right? It's about just getting back to removing that ignorance and getting the truth out there. Because, like I said, the vast majority of people that work in the system, the cops, the lawyers, the judges, the vast majority of them don't really know what's going on. They're blinded by their paychecks. They're blinded by their BMWs, their big houses, their yachts, their party circles, and all the rest of it that goes along with that. You know, they are so lock, stock in the meat stick realm. There's nothing but pity that I have, knowing full well. And see, the other side of it too is when you have these individuals that are completely ignorant of this, and then they want to play the feigned authority role with me, well, that's not going to work well for them, ever. Because I will treat a child as a child needs to be treated. I will speak to a child as a child. And that's why I don't get into any, like Friday night, I didn't get any lengthy details with these guys. I just said, no. I told Chicky, no, yeah, of course they're expired. I'm not a taxpayer. Right? That's to let you know that. Right? And of course, the broker kicks in, oh, we got one of those free man types, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, cruiser pulls up, and it's a couple of big boy meat sticks, you know, carrying their 9mm penis extensions on their hips like I'm going to be afraid. Right? And I just talked to them very plainly. It's just, you know, no, I'm not in your jurisdiction. I said, I'm on the air, right? And I just watched this little bit of chaos play out around them, you know? Like, what were they talking about? What, you know, afterwards? You know, they didn't get their way. So think of a bunch of spoiled kids that didn't get their way, and they're going to go back to mommy and daddy and go, why didn't I get my treats? You know? So that, you see, these are kangaroos of the highest magnitude going to be jumping around in some people's heads. You've got the dispatch, you've got where they called into, you've got people on that end, so, and whoever else was listening over the lines, you know, every other cop that's tuned in. You know, so how many people out there right now are scratching their heads and asking, what the hell went on? What was that all about? Why couldn't you grab her? You know, and this is what I talk about with the kangaroos. There's a lot of kangaroos got planted that night. You know, whether they sink in or not, it's not my concern. All I'm concerned about is making sure I've kicked a few of those into their playgrounds. And I know I did. That's why I mentioned, guys, if you want to have some fun with this, start mentioning that you're Phoenician, just to see how fast the system jumps on that. Watch your effect.
It'll come up really quickly, I think. You know, we'll see it.
See, there's the wake-up call, right?
Roost is up. Oh, you love it. He's up on the step with me.
Yeah, the roost is up.
The roost is up. I had the experience of that the other day in the New Age, I love to bracket that, environment. The same authority figure that our culture is based on, police systems, everything, down to New Agers who want to mentor, tell somebody else what's going on in their life, where their troubles are, and what they can do for it. It's exactly the same scenario.
You know, as they head to their day jobs and then put their paychecks in the bank, as they make their mortgage payments, as they can't even think about not having identification, and they're trying to talk from a spiritual perspective. Well, sorry, you got to be alive first before you can do that with me. That's why any of these systems that are coming out, Bitcoin or any of these free energy movements, they're all the same to me. You know, and these are all the salesmen or the deceivers of the same shit. And I'll ask any one of these individuals, are you traveling around the world with identification? So they're traveling basically as dead entities. They are spiritually dead. So I will not let a spiritual dead thing have any power in my reality. It's why I get rid of the poltergeists. You know, like I think I probably.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say I probably have a record of the number of people I've called out. You know, boy, Kate's not looking to make friends, is she? No, I'm here for truth, baby.
You can be damn sure the first thing they did was patent it.
Oh yeah,
that's right. I did the damn thing. I think the same when it comes to them thinking that they are an authority over your life and your choices. That's the as I say, ego sneaking in the back door again, you know. I'll tell you where you could be. Whew. You know, it's like, they're trapped in their own loop, in their own dogma.
They're caught up they're caught up in the starstruck. That's all it is, you know. That's why I do spend inordinate amounts of time making sure that this table is level, and it's kept damn level every time. Because the last thing I want is
you do a perfect job.
Any form of that. You know, the only one that you are going to idolize and worship is you. Okay? Thou shalt have other idols before you. Okay? That includes me. We're all one here.
Well, what I do is when I recognize that magnetic electric rising into into that higher position, you know, is recognizing that, because that's what it is. We in truth, whether is what we seek, you know, and that's like I look up the word sovereign. You know, a sovereign. When I look at it, I have it written down, a lot of different words, and it resonates. And having independent and self-governing power, status, and authority, right? Authority. You say that word with authority. You don't say it with arrogance. You don't say it with, I'm this, I'm a sovereign. You know, no, it's within yourself. See, it's having independent. That word independent and self-governing power. That is what we are as individuals. Are kings within our own right, not ruled by somebody else's illusions.
Independent.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right.
Independent. Of, now we take the D's out, tent, okay? So it's in and of, right? We'll leave the de for French there, right? But, and in the law of truth, pen, there's the mind again. Law of truth, mind. So that's that word independent. Once you transfix it and neutralize it to see what it's really saying, is it's saying you're in and of your own mind, where no one can nobody can step or trespass on your ability to be of independent mind.
Yeah, I knew you'd break it down. That's why when I said that word, before I even read that, when I looked at independent, I said, you know what, Kate will be able to break that down, because I see the mind, the in and the D and the pen part. But yeah, in of that mind. Yeah.
Like ent or ents. Anytime you hear that sound, psi-ents, spirit mind. Pendence, right? Written mind.
Yeah.
Penned, as in to write, mind. So that's
right.
a mind that has the ability to write, R-I-T-E, to create ritual. Anytime you ever hear me say write, that is the only way I spell it, R-I-T-E.
Yeah.
That's a spirit breath of the eye. Oh, go ahead.
The word sovereign, because of the implications around it, before we got into the Phoenician of it, I would look for another way of expressing that, and innate nature. It's our innate nature. sovereign had too many, connotations around it. Now that we can just change the word up and our intention for it, it doesn't matter what word we use. It's my intention, it's my creation, therefore I know the essence behind what I'm creating with that. It takes away any of my need to find a better word.
Well, that's it. And what we're doing with these breakdowns, we're getting into a pure intent only, where sound isn't required, right? This is what happens when you're neutralizing words. So when you're hearing them coming from others and when others are saying them, anything that you've broken down is broken down for this entire planet in all languages, in all sounds, because what you're doing is nullifying the sound wherever it shows up to put your intent into it. It was becoming aware of this that created this overall effect. And this is the part that people have the hardest time believing. I can really do that? Yes, you are doing it. How do you think you got trapped into this? The same way we got trapped is the same way we get out. And I've done this all along. I talked for a very long time in that the birth certificate was the contract that got us into this mess, so it has to be, that was the key that locked the door. It also has to be the same key to unlock it. In as much as the sound that was trapped in the spells were locked in, well, we're the ones unlocking it using the same concepts to pull them back out. So it's changing the intent of the sound, not the spellings. Because you can spell the same sound many different ways. Ents, E-N-T-S, E-N-C-E, E-N-S-E, N-T-S. You see what I'm saying? E-N-S, E-N-C. Anytime that these sounds appear in a spelling, that says mind to me. So I look at words from that perspective, from a sound-based instead of a spelling-based perspective. And that's why it's show and tell. This is where you're using your eyes and ears at the same time. You're hearing with your eyes and seeing with your ears while you're seeing with your eyes and hearing with your ears. You've got the double cross going on. And X marks the spot, and that's the Phoenician law of truth letter, T, which is the X inside the circle. This is what's giving you your scope back to get all 4 points lined up. The equal and opposite, positive and negative on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. It was zeroing in on that. And the other thing, too, like you're saying, when you begin to break things down, just the word authority itself, right? The author, right? We're the author.
Well, A-U is gold, right? Symbol for gold, Thor. Well, Thor represents truth, represents a hammer, right? And only the righteous could lift that hammer, so that makes you the Thor. And also the thorn, right? That's your crown of Thor ends. The crown, the crow that's yours that's creating the cause of ultraviolet, UV, OF, same sound. Thor, N, thorns. Thor that's mine, the hammer of truth that's mine. All right, so that's a crown of thorns. Crow N, UV, Thor N. Does that make sense?
Awesome.
Okay,
absolutely,
so that's okay. So it was all trapped in the sounds. That's why the crow N that has all the cause. That's why they have the ravens at the Tower of London. These are all allegoric clues to show us just how crazy this cosmic joke is. And for me, I think the prevailing feeling I had on Friday night was just frustration at the ignorance that I still have to deal with. It's just boring. It's like, when are you going to get this, guys? You're killing yourselves. You're killing your families. You're killing your friends. You're killing perfectly wonderful people every time you flip open your Narmer palette. You're killing spirit. You are paying a price of prices on this. Not only have you sold your soul to the devil, you're collecting for him.
Yeah.
You're right.
But you know what, though? Kate, you know what it is, though? People like you, me, there's a small percentage, and I don't know, but that's the thing is that this our voice, this consciousness that's really getting it and knowing how to represent themselves.
It's standing in your ground, and hang on a sec, Richie. Mystified jumped in again. Again, just give it a little space in between because we got different connections: UK, California, Australia, and it takes a second to up to 2 or 3 seconds for people to respond. So that's just leave it a little breathing room. Go ahead, Mystified. Right. Oh, it's no worries.
Your Irish accent came through there at the beginning there when you went on that little mini rant there.
Oh yeah, well it shows up sometimes.
Yeah.
The true Irish bit shows up. Trust me. Oh yeah. Get a Guinness or two in me, and maybe smoke a bowl, and yeah. And hang out with some Irish and some Scots, and that's it. And this girl's wrote. Oh yeah.
God.
Well, let's just say, in typical, the closest one that I can say accent-wise would be Mike Tessarian. For me, that's because he's got a very anglicized brogue, and that's what I have. I guess it would be called a proper brogue, if you want it, for lack of... it would be something that the BBC would pick up on in Northern Ireland news, right? You'd have to have that anglicized brogue where you still sound Irish, but you're not quite rough, you know? It's quite funny, actually, when you listen to it. Anytime I listen to Northern Ireland news, that's pretty much it. And thank you for noticing, asshole. I'm kidding. It's all good.
I spent 2.5 years there.
Oh yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, a bunch of crazies, I'll tell you. I mean, seriously, where else is a mouthy tranny going to come from? Seriously. You know, I laugh about it. You know, it was like when Shay was on the other night, Peter. I got to tell you, you know, north or south, I just love hearing from people from home. It is such a connection for me. You have no idea. It sets me right on the coast, and I've got a couple of spots that I like to visualize. Actually, quite a few spots. So that's really where it puts me. And I'll be back. I'll be back.
The Gilligan. That was a place I visited when I was there, walking along the beach. Brilliant.
Isn't it?
Yep. What an awesome place it is.
I just had a request. I think I might have to fulfill this. Maybe Kate can write a simple song of freedom. I've got a few of those actually already, but I'll definitely look into writing something along the Phoenician side of things. It'll still be regular English, but you guys will get the joke. What do we got here? Just checking the clock. We got just a little under 10 minutes here, so let's get things wrapped up. And again, the overall concepts tonight. This is where I'm reaching out to you. Very clear, very concise, able for entry levels to grasp the concepts that we're sharing here. Yes. Yep. Very grounded.
The shows that you do where you're a guest on the other shows, they're the really good entry level ones. I think it would be a good idea if like your YouTube channel had links to those. So like if somebody was first coming across the information, those would be like a good starting place, rather than having to like try and look back through all of the catalogue of shows that you've got on here.
Too many. There's too many shows that we have on Critical Mass Radio. And speaking of which, I should probably do a shout out. Thank you for reminding me. But yes, you're absolutely right. I love being interviewed by open-minded hosts that are actually looking for truth and not looking for ratings. The ones that are looking for ratings, well, they'll get a berating from me. There's no two ways about it, and they won't like it, and they won't invite me back, I promise you, and they'll talk about me for a long time. And that's kind of the point I'm making. But great big thank you to Paul Giovanni at criticalmassradio.co.uk, Ninja and the crew there. Thank you guys so much for just being, and of course everyone that is at this table, supports this table in any way, shape or form whatsoever. You are absolutely the critical mass that is the cutting edge of this consciousness. You are the ones that are changing this consciousness. I know, I watch it every day. It's beautiful to behold when you understand the power you're wielding. It's like even when Richie was talking about what he went through today. I'd be curious to hear the outcome as to what actually happened, considering it was your nephew and he probably buckled under the pressure, but it's all good. Johnny Longarm, or Deputy Donut, got himself a bit of a an awakening, especially if it was a rookie or someone newer on the force that just had their whole idea of being God destroyed in one afternoon. Very well done. So again, great big thank you. So Richie, if you could, we've only got a few minutes here, and I've got an echo. I don't know whose mic's open, but yeah, if you could, what was the final outcome with that little soiree you had? Richie, you there? Oh, you must have muted. We got just under 7 minutes here. I guess it'll remain a mystery until Richie opens his mic. Because I'll tell you, if he muted his mic on his end and he started talking, there's no way he's going to hear what I'm saying. I love it. Oh. Anyway, final thoughts, guys. Anybody?
You are the sunshine in our lives. I am so glad to be a member of this Emerald Table. I am very, very happy. I am in need of, Kate, is some scheduled times of other critical mass radio programs, because your number is the only number that I have. Can I go online and find the schedule of the hosts of different shows?
Yeah, just go to criticalmassradio.co.uk. Just punch that in, and you can also email Paul. He'd be more than happy to send you a schedule. And I know Michael, his show starts in the morning, I believe, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time. He's broadcasting 4 a.m. Out in Hawaii. So I believe that'll be 3 to 5 p.m. 2 to 4 p.m. because it's only 4 hours difference right now in the UK tomorrow afternoon. So, and I know there's other shows on like I run the sister platform. I'm the only host on the sister platform, right? Because it's got the 2 hours per day premium, right? So, and I run it 7 days a week, so it doesn't leave a lot of room for anything or anyone else, greedy bitch that I am, but there you go. But definitely get over to criticalmassradio.co.uk. And by the way, guys, if you can chip in, great. Everything there is free regardless. That is paramount. Truth must always be free for all. Anyone that's charging for truth, anyone that's charging money for solutions in the system, anyone that's charging money for anything, not interested, because you don't understand what truth is. Truth is not for sale. That just tells me your soul is. Mine isn't.
That was good news to hear. You told us about your 4-year quest of not having anything definite for financial growth in your own life, and you have survived 4 years just living and loving. Those are the two avenues that you've been traveling on.
It's been fun. I think that's one of the words I'd use. There's a few others that are a bit more expletive, but it's been fun.
But as you see, as life goes on, it gets better and better and better.
Well,
Every day is a better day.
I see the world changing.
You see that? You feel that? Why? I wonder why. It's love once again. It's love once again getting ready to surround and take over and show and raise its beautiful head one more time, so that the masses could see it, or the masses in our Emerald Table, not the asses, the masses, is the ones that we would love to experience what we experience.
Exactly.
We are the ones.
And remember,
I got a 3-year-old now. I'm quoting names like I'll just say Kate or Gaia. So when she becomes 5 or 6 years old, the word Gaia would not be a stranger to her. She may not know what I'm saying now. You know, well, what you doing? I'm doing listen to Kate or Gaia. She may not understand it right now, but as she becomes 6 or 7, that word Gaia would not be a freak to her, or the word Kate will not be a freak to her. So that's why I use people names.
That's the importance of the children, you know, and it's what are we teaching our children? And I know the people at this table have got a whole different viewpoint on the reality, and that whole different viewpoint is so wide open now, where I'm hearing from people, with kids and what they're doing, and it's transforming it at such a grassroots level. And we're talking the children, the purest spirits of all, the ones that get drained the most, the fastest, are the ones that are being shown the true way, and not the bullshit that's been sold to us that we've had to spend our lifetimes just getting rid of. And I don't consider it spending anything. I see it as investing in immortal spiritual future, and that's all that matters to me.
You were asking about more shows, Barbara. One of the accounts on Blog Talk Radio is called Critical Mass Radio, and the other one's called Critical Mass Radio Station. And the Critical Mass Radio Station has got the other presenters on.
All right. I've written it down.
Yeah, you can find all the information on either one of the sites. So, thank you for that, Mystified. It's just it was confusing for me because I could never find any of the other presenter ones, and I was looking for Critical Mass on Blog Talk Radio, and it would always just take us to the one with yours on. But you've got ones with Rob Freeman on and Paul Giovanni and all the other ones, but that's Critical Mass Radio Station. Yeah. And Rob Freeman's another one that's really pumping the message, Like I said, I read that email I have to respond to, so I'll probably do that as soon as I get off the air here, about contacting to be part of that group. Put our table's intent in there, and that's what goes in. Anything that I connect to, and you know how careful I am with spiritual contracts. I keep it neutral. I keep it non-taintable, right? Non-mirrorable. Okay, you can't touch this message. This is truth, and that's where it stays. And I'll tell you, anywhere I go, we go, and the truth goes with it in its purest, unadulterated, get the job done form. No compromise.
Yeah. That sounds like Larry the Cable Man. Getting it done, get it done. That sound like Larry the Cable Man. Get it done, get it done.
Get it done. No more waiting.
Wait. We came here to do a job, and we're doing it, and it's getting done, and nothing's going to stop it.
It's done.
I don't care what walls are put up.
Yeah, and so motivated.
You know what, Kate? I think. Yeah, you know what I think? It's like that one particular moment there, and it all started, because I don't know what Rob Freeman does. I don't know if he's what he's strictly in, but what it is you're bringing all the elements from the four corners, north, south, east, and west. You're bringing in the spiritual part of it is bringing because it is connected.
Rob brings in the fundamental basics and the spirituals as well, so he's a beautiful bridge. Chris is doing the same sort of work as well. And Michael now is bringing full-on spirituality as well. And, Michael from our table, him and Mark. So, and on that happy note, we're already rolled into the recording here, so I'm going to bid all a beautiful, beautiful evening, morning, afternoon, whatever the case may be. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. And remember, wherever I am meant to be. I accept all things. Try that hat on for a while, and you'll see what Interstate 60 is. I did watch that again today just for grounding. And I do that on occasion just to ground out when things are just getting a bit too skitsy, right? Too much information. So I zone out into the things that are familiar. Remember, I follow my own advice. When you're just at that not quite sure point, go back to something you know. Something you absolutely know without fail. And there's going to be lots of really cool information this week, I'm sure. Looking forward to being part of a little meeting with some notables that are actually ready for this information, that are in key positions. So it's time to wake up the inside and try. We got to bring them home. That's what I'm here to do. Okay, guys, so much love, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow night. Okay?
All right, light to you guys. Good night.
Yeah, good night. See you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
And Mira, thank you guys. Love you all.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Kate of Gaia on Critical Mass Radio. The game is up. Now, it's our turn.
Every single thing that you agreed with but didn't experience yourself is an external agreement with someone else's idea of reality. So how's that working out for you? Well, who created the schools, the governments, the constructs of society, and how are they maintained? The easy answer is that it wasn't you, but the truth is, you are in full agreement with all of these illusions simply by going along to get along. Talk about a perfect trap. This is the point that we all have to get to before we can begin freeing ourselves by freeing our minds of the programs so carefully embedded that are totally detrimental to our spiritual existence. Just ask yourself why you are who you are and why you do the things you do. The likely scenario is that you are one religion or another based on your family. Your political views are the result of seeds being planted by your society, and your belief systems are fully based on what those closest to you taught you to believe without question. At what point does one break free of this nonsense? Well, you break free once you begin to negate, question, and counter everything you ever thought to be true. If it wasn't your own idea, it wasn't your own idea, and you are in contract with something or other as a net result. I covered this somewhat in my essays titled Choices and Behold a White Canvas. It is impossible to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, so that you have a compass reference to steer yourself. Everything I've ever been taught was tossed in the garbage, and I did my own reboot. It was quoted once like this: "If thine eye offend thee, pluck it out." That is not a literal statement, but rather an allegorical one. Good thing, huh? What it's trying to tell you is this: if you are doing something that creates a problem, stop doing it. With that in mind, who's really creating life's problems for you? If the answer was anything but myself, you have a long way to go, and you are polarized with no hope of seeing what is really going on here. This is a game of principalities of light and dark, thought forms made manifest, and can only exist where our agreements are all it takes to keep them alive, quite literally. I have simply decided to not be party to these agreements any longer, where my reality involves only that which I willfully agree with in full responsibility of my own choices. It really is quite simple, but the ego doesn't do simple. It only does complicated, because simple doesn't involve drama, distractions, emotions, etc. This is the fundamental concept of the devil in the deep blue sea of Scylla and Charybdis, where the details will get your mind picked off bit by bit, and the ignorance will sink your entire ship. Only in the middle will you see both sides of the coin, the head and the tail of the dragon that has owned your mind for so long. You now have the choice to agree or not to agree with this insanity, where I've said enough is enough. I can't tell you where your point of enough is. Only you can do that. What I will say about that is this: whatever bed you decide to make is the one you'll be sleeping in, and will either have the whore of Babylon waiting after bedding everyone before you, or the sheets will be pure and white. I chose the latter. Make no mistake about this game. It is not for the faint or the weak of heart. It will test you to your limits, but never beyond that point. You will be tested to the degree that is required for you to get it, and it will be up to you as to how far that goes and to what it will take. So choose the being hit by a feather or having a mountain dropped on you. What makes it easiest for me is that I know that my choices will not involve party to a murdered child, due to the system that breeds warfare and starvation, where I will not aid and abet it by being an energy source via my ignorant agreement. I am weird to Ninja. Interesting. Oh, it might be just contracts. Okay, it's probably just under contracts. So let me just check that out, because I knew it was there. Yeah, this should be the one. Okay, yeah, this is it. It's just titled contracts. I should get. I'll ask Ninja if she can just rename that spiritual contracts, because that's what I had it listed on my file here. So it's just titled contracts, but really the gist of it is spiritual contracts, to really drive that point home. Now, So it's on kateofgaia.wordpress.com. Just scroll down on the Kate's Writings page and click on contracts, and there it is. So without further ado, I really want to drive this home to get people to understand it's not a physical signing, it's not a physical X, it's not a physical line, it's not a physical piece of paper, it's not the physical words, it's not the physical anything. It is the intent and the agreement that you place in that intent with what is being spelled at you and what you agree with. Because I'll tell you, what you agree with on a piece of paper when you put your DNA Midas touch on it, as soon as you touch it, it's sealed with your DNA. You won't see it on the paper, though, but it's there. That's why legal is all about forensics. That was a big clue for me a while back. So I started thinking about this even more forensically, right? It's funny how they have all these forensic shows on TV, right? Just a coincidence. Hint, hint, hint. Wake up, wake up. So here we go. Excuse me. Okay, so contracts, or spiritual contracts. In truth, here it is all about contracts. Unfortunately, most people stop at the physical aspect of what a contract is, thinking it is just a piece of paper or an agreement made in writing without ever considering the intent. Intent is what contract is all about, inasmuch as every thought is pure creation, unfettered, where we all make countless left-brain deals and contracts every instant of the day. This is why we need to gain control over our analytical minds, where the system has finally trained them to think in a certain way. If someone can channel your intent and absolute creation power by means of keeping you thinking in a certain way, how powerful could they be? This is the very nature of the register trap. When you enter an agreement to register anything, you are making a choice to let another rule your divine feminine creative ability at source. Anytime you intend to do anything, it is already a spiritual contract. The trick is to gain control over that intent, and the distractions of this world fit that bill nicely. Are you caught up in the emotional dramas of day-to-day life? And if so, then your mind is owned by the illusions. You cannot serve two masters, period. So who and what are the masters? This is pure black and white. There is no gray area on this one, no halfway in and remaining a virgin, no almost pregnant, no partial deals with the devil. In this game, you're either in or you're out, either in bed with the whore of Babylon or you kick her out of your bed with no going back. To illustrate this clearly, let me share it this way. If you carry any form of ID or you're part of the whore system, or not, if you have a bank account, a passport, a library card, etc., with your, quote, name on it, are you playing with the whore or not? And I want to go back to the word name. There's that not applicable magnetic electric, right? N-A, not applicable, me, M-E, magnetic electric. More and more layers, just to show that the size of the cosmic joke and how blatant this is once you start breaking all the rules, using all the rules. So carrying on here. What most people miss out on is the fact that anything you agree with at all, you are in a spiritually binding contract. I'm weary of hearing people claim to be spiritual healers or the like and are still in bed with the whore, the original contract that nullifies any and all current spiritual intent. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. This is the tough choice. But the truth is, I value my spiritual nature that is infinite over all the physical manifestations of a single lifetime. The choice is that extreme, and you'll either take these gifts and use them this lifetime, or get stuck with another round of the same bullshit from a fully sleepy beginning again, as in 0 Point. Just ask yourself if you'll be happy going through kindergarten again, or are you ready to step it up to make the grade this time round? No pressure, really. Just that all of the universe is in your hands, regardless of what choice you make. Beyond that, I know who and what I am now, so my choices are manifesting, and I get to see those results play out every single day. You can too, but then you have a choice to make, now don't you? The whore of Babylon or you? Choose. Much love, yours truly. And it really is that simple. And quite honestly, I love going back and reading stuff that I wrote a while back, and I always get new perspectives from it. Yeah, I read it and I get new perspectives from it. Yes, that's because it's writing for all, right? It's not written from a singular perspective. It's written from a singularity perspective. Slight difference. But this is a fundamental that people need to understand, and the contract breaks in the mind first. Everyone likes to panic. I won't say everyone, but I've seen a lot of people panic. Well, Kate, what do I do about this? And what do I do about that? And what do I do about this and that? Oh my! And honestly, it's like, whoa, slow down, smoke a bowl, because the ego loves to create these super huge, all-at-once dramas to build this wall of shit that you think you have to pass through. When really, that mountain that the ego builds is just a molehill, and all you got to do is erase it with your foot. Because the ego loves to put all of it together, because as soon as you say, lose the ID, people go automatically into, well, house, car, family, kids, everything, wow, job, blah, 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 passports, you name it, goes on and on and on, and it's all at once. I'd say that. Ego assumes it, though. What I said was you need to get the concept first. And from that point, once you have the concept and you understand that everything you've gotten into was a spiritual contract, in ignorance, we were all in ignorance doing this, but we're a little smarter now. So if you were ignorant about getting into a contract and you were duped and there was fraud intent there, well, that's a universal game that gets nullified. That's why this system is coming down, there's no question. A fraud revealed is null and void, nunc pro tunc, now for then. I see the end episode, 100th episode of Fringe, where things happen like that as if it never was. Where you wake up from the dream. Just my intuitive on it. But really, you got to know who you are. You're not a meat stick. That's your game piece. And yes, they're fun to play with and all the rest of it. And, look around the planet and you'll see people that think that that's all there is. And everything they do involves taking care of that meat stick from the meat stick perspective. And then you'll see them pile into churches, mosques, and synagogues in the millions and billions. For what? Oh, that's right. They want the easy way out. Apparently all they have to do is, worship a God outside of themselves is coming to save them. That's on Sunday morning. And then right back the next day, end of story. Let me say that again. If you are in agreement with anything or anyone, you are bound under universal, natural, spiritual laws, and are thus in contract with whatever your agreements may be, and bound to those you are agreeing with. Is that clear enough for you? I'll wait a second here and let that sink in fully, so that you can see the measure of your own involvement with a system you claim to loathe. If you vote for someone, you grant them your power, pure and simple. Fact, done deal. You're owned. A slave? Now, get over it. Perhaps you may not feel good about that, but then whose choice is it? We can bitch and complain about our situations here in the physical realms, but we must consider first and foremost what our intentions and agreements are and what they manifest. The physical realm is the effect, and the spiritual realm is the cause, where the vast majority of people only see things from a body-stuck physical viewpoint and are, as a result, doing it all backwards, to the glee of the ones that control the system's intent. Humanity is ultra-quick to blame outside of themselves based on the various scenarios one can find themselves in. For every cause, there is an effect, and for every effect, there was a cause. What people don't like to consider is the very fact that they were involved at all levels willfully, if only ignorant of these universal variables and laws. While we continue to agree with commerce, we will be at full effect to those that control the money. So please don't cry me a river about your situations, because I've cried enough about my own until I finally grew up, accepted the responsibility of my own contracts, and worked diligently to remove the ignorance which finds me where I am now. Another aspect that people don't get is the sheer polarity that they live in. When one considers something evil and only evil, they are polarized. and off-center and will never see beyond the duality of being polarized. It is only when we can see both good and evil in everything, which is never really easy, that we begin to see things as they truly are at all. I have had my own encounters with extreme evil, yet from those experiences, I got the knowledge that I have and can share, which I can see as good. It is all solely dependent on one's perspective. If your perspective is polarized to one side or the other, the instant something comes into play that opposes your opinion, you get all emotional about it and end up in some left brain monkey chatter fest and fully distracted. Remember this, that which you agree with, you are in full contract with. I have mentioned many times the absolute lunacy of some freemen on the land or sovereign citizen telling a uniformed goon that they do not wish to contract with them, are already in contract with the original license and application to get one in the first place. This is the original contract that hasn't been nullified on the physical and most assuredly hasn't been nullified in the spiritual realms either. Even considering that you need a license, is agreement enough for this game? In order to begin to grasp this concept, just consider all the agreements you have ever went into throughout your life, and soon you'll see the garbage piling up. The school system is more about getting children to simply agree with what is being taught, more so than what is being taught. The curriculum is inferior to the intent of the programming. One need only look at the first test that we ever wrote to see this. When a question is asked and requires an answer based on the teachings, you must have to agree that there is a right and a wrong answer according to what someone else is telling you. The easy exposure of that is to ask yourself the simple question, did it really happen if I didn't witness it? Or is it someone else's idea of what happened that you were contracting with?
You're listening to Kate of Gaia on Critical Mass Radio. The game is up. Now, it's our turn.
And good evening, welcome to Outside the Box. Yours truly, Kate of Gaia, broadcasting live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the universe here on criticalmassradio.co.uk. Anyway, I was kind of wondering what I wanted to go over tonight. And lots of interesting information coming out, having a few different chats today. And the system is, they're getting the message to the point where they're even asking now. So the ones inside, the ones that I've been talking about, we need to wake up and not beat up, those guys? Yeah, that's why I poke at them, to try to jibe them into consciousness, if you will, Well, it's like this, if you can mildly piss someone off, they might actually look at it. But I'll tell you, it's at least a kangaroo jumped around in their little jungle. But needless to say, lots of positive stuff coming out, and I think on that basis I'm going to revisit a couple of things to really bring the points home, because I've talked a bit about a few different essays and how critical things are. And I think it's time to revisit a couple of these things and really just go through them again and just drive this home. This hopefully helps to eliminate people needing, quote, legal advice, unquote, because you don't. What you need to know is who you are. More importantly, you need to understand what the legal system is in terms of a spiritual contract, and it's a spiritually binding contract. This is the unseen that people cannot see. For some reason I do, and whatever. It's just the way it is. So I want to share spiritual contracts tonight, and I think I might look at the Midas touch again. I'm just going with what is feeling right, because in as much as I want to keep moving forward, I also don't want to leave people behind as far as keeping everyone up to speed, because I know we get lots of new listeners all the time. And I want to really visit on the fundamentals so that these concepts are driven home. Because the more you can see beyond the veil of the physical, the more power you will actually possess, and you'll understand what's going on. And this system that wants to steal all your stuff won't be so scary. Okay? I know what that feels like. The system stole all of my stuff. More importantly, destroyed my family in that process. And that's always the game, right? Undermine. And you see, the measure of attack is always directly in the mirror of the amount of threat one has to them. And that's the game, right? This is about how far out of balance you can throw things to see how far you can tip their boat over. And quite frankly, their Poseidon is upside down, bass backwards. They're all walking towards the bow. Well, the ones that are just blind, they'll just keep going until they're underwater anyway. And at that point, well, if you're underwater, well, it's water truth. So let me see. Just went to my website. I just want to see where it is. It should be on here. I'm looking. And it would be really shitty if it's not here, because I have to pull out. No, I'm not seeing it. Let me just have a look. No, I'm not seeing it. I thought it was there. Isn't that interesting? Oh, well, I'll have to make sure I get that back over